Okay, we're live. Okay, Garrett, I've got a little bit of money trivia for you. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, do you have any idea how much spare change the TSA collects every year?
Oh man, it's got to be in the millions. 1.2 million.
That's actually not a bad guess. We're at 960,000 in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what any more
Probably
current
down.
numbers. It's probably yeah, it was probably up in 2019, maybe a little down, probably for sure down in 2020. But 2013 was 630,000. Let's see, 2015 was up to 760,000, and we were all the way up to 960,000 in 2018.
That's a lot of money.
You think the federal government decreased our taxes by $1 million
No.
across the nation? No. Okay.
What did that money go to? That would be the
I have
next
no idea.
question.
I should look that up.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Probably just the TSA.
New metal detectors.
Yeah, maybe. And then I've got one more. What's the craziest place you can think of that you could put an ATM?
Like makes the least amount of sense,
Or yes,
or causes people to make stupid
the
decisions.
least amount of sense.
No
pun intended.
I'm gonna say a cave in the Rockies.
It's a good guess, but it's Antarctica.
Yeah.
Apparently they have two there.
Yeah. Okay.
Serviced by Wells Fargo.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much the processing fee has got to be astronomical.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't put a freeze on your account if you're up there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a dad in the house. Yeah.
That was an unplanned joke, by the way.
It
totally unplanned.
It was pretty good. Clearly, you are a dad. Yeah, it's good. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're actually doing a callback to our last live stream. And that was towards the end of it, or towards the middle, we had an article about how the strong job market is actually causing a lot of students to decide to drop out because wage growth, and there's just a lot of opportunities for jobs. A couple of the interesting points was that enrollment was actually down 3.1%. And this year, it's down total 1 million students for undergraduate, which is pretty insane, even for America, Like we have 360 million, give or take, people in the country. 1 million college students is pretty massive.
Yeah.
So this was something that you looked up as a follow-up, so I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so this article is talking about skilled trades programs, and the graph on the next page here shows kind of the effect of what's going on here, and our speculation was pretty much right last time. Save for psychology seemed to be the one that was actually up there. I think it's at 5 or 6% there.
In terms of growth.
Yeah, in terms of growth. Other than that, all the other studies were down except for some of the trades. What was interesting was agriculture there's really high. I found that to be interesting. Yeah. Why agriculture? And it's really interesting because I don't see young people as wanting to go into agriculture, but I guess there's something there.
Yeah, well, one thing I would say is probably agriculture is always going to be necessary.
It's true.
So that's definitely going to impact the number of people that are trying to get involved in it, I suppose, especially in a time that was pretty, it was hard to predict in terms of your job and everything.
And I suppose with like the growing, commercial agriculture, that's probably a big part of that. This article focused a lot, though, on construction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that construction was up right around where psychology was, 5 or 6% there.
Okay.
And they talked to a fella in this article, and he was concerned with the construction trades and specifically that. And we've talked about, I think, maybe 2 streams ago, how there's still the demand for new homes,
Yeah.
but not enough contractors to go about building them. And it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better based on this, even with the increase of, it's a small increase of young people trying to get into that trade.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, this next slide here shows 89% of contractors were having a difficult time finding workers for the trained jobs.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, me neither.
Not at all.
And yeah, 61% of contractors reported delays because of workforce shortages. So
yeah, no surprise there
Yeah.
at all.
yeah, I've seen that at least with people I know that their house is promised at a certain date, and it seems almost as though the contractor knows he's not going to make that date the day they sign the contract.
Yeah, right.
So, but they got to play their games and get their contracts too.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next slide here talks about something that may contribute towards a little bit that problem. The federal government only spends $1 on career training for every $6 it puts into college prep. So that might be something that needs to be addressed in the future.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this guy, the CEO, Steve Sandhier, is a CEO for a big contracting company, and he was saying that the funding gap for career training is kind of discouraging to people in his field.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no kidding.
Yep.
Okay. So the next one we got is it's pretty interesting. The mortgage rates have actually dropped a little bit in the last 2 weeks, which was totally unexpected. According to Freddie Mac, the 30-year fixed mortgage went down to 5.1% versus the 5.25%, which is still pretty crazy because, like, you think back to 2020 and 2021, and we were down below 3.
Yeah.
I mean, like our mortgage was just below 3 at 2.99%.
Yeah.
So we're already nearing twice that. But this is an interesting graph showing the mortgage rates for the last 20 years or so. I'm like back in 2020 or back in 2000 when we were 6 years old, we were up to 8.5, almost 9%.
Yeah.
Interest rates. Can you imagine purchasing a house for that right now? No. And it goes on to, talk about how this probably isn't going to last because, mortgage rates are just going to keep rising along with the Fed raising rates, which goes nicely into our next point, which is that house hunting is obviously becoming more and more difficult for people because there's fewer houses on the market, a lot of people looking for houses, and that's causing the cost to go way up. Obviously, that's affecting the contractors, like what you were just talking about. And so just in the last year, we've gone up about 15% on houses. Can you imagine like 15% on just any investment? If you've got money in your 401k or the stock market or something, 15% is pretty good. I would happily take 15%.
I'd take half of that right now.
Yeah, no kidding. Because we're looking at half of that being inflation.
Yeah.
So, and then it talks about how the A buyer in the last several years used to be the 3% down and pre-qualified for the loan, but now it's all cash, which is pretty insane because cash buyers, they have obviously they have a huge advantage right now because most people can't afford to pay cash for a house. And especially right now, it's like, everything's much higher. So people have to choose a house that's just lower in terms of the perceived value now in comparison with years previous. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, that's something that has kind of surprised me is how many people have been able to make the cash offers at these prices.
Yeah.
So I kind of view that as kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, in terms
Well, it
of
makes
that.
you wonder.
Not if you're trying to compete with said people.
Yes. Right. Yeah. But props to them for having enough cash for that. It makes you wonder if some of all that growth from 2020 and 2021 was, you know, making it so that some people could actually just turn around and throw that into cash, you know,
Yeah.
or throw that cash into the home. But yeah, they go on to talk about how they sometimes encourage people to stretch their budget a little bit. But one thing that I really appreciated about this article is that they were fairly conservative in what they were saying. So this individual says, you know, if you've got your consumer debt paid down, if you're saving for retirement, you've got an emergency fund, there might be a little bit of extra room to push yourself with the budget for buying a home. And I think that that's pretty good, very general advice. Generally, like what we did for our house, we followed the Dave Ramsey rule, which I know a lot of people aren't going to be a fan of, especially right now. But if you can do it, it's going to put you in a much more conservative and comfortable position than where you might be otherwise. And that's having 25%, no more than 25% of your take-home pay going towards your home payment every month, and it being on a 15-year fixed rate mortgage, which we were able to accomplish with this house. But that was back in 2020, and I know that things have gotten more difficult. But the more conservative you are, the better it'll be, especially in times when it's unpredictable with inflation and stuff. Yeah. Or you could be like this guy and just build your house.
Yeah. I won't do it again.
Yeah. I don't blame you. We did the roof on our house, and I was like, yep, never doing a roof again.
Yeah, lots of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see a comment there that's pretty interesting. Waiving inspections and appraisals, the buyer can't compete. That's also a problem that's going on right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in fact, someone that I work with just told me today that they got in contract for a house over the weekend. And I asked when they're doing the inspection, almost half thinking that they weren't going to do the inspection, but they are doing the inspection tomorrow, which is good.
That's good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just insane.
Yeah.
People are willing to go to great lengths to get a house just because they're competing with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you get the inspections. If something comes up, investigate it further. I know somebody that had an inspection and they ended up finding mold, and they pressed the issue, and it was a good thing. And they were very close to not pushing the issue, and it would have been a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Mold is gonna.
Yeah. You don't want to run into that.
That can really screw you up.
The one thing you don't want.
Yeah, really. So then it goes on and let's go back. It just makes a point like, hey, there's a lot of things that you may not realize as a new home buyer. And that is that you still have to pay for a lot of variable costs like taxes, insurance, and repairs. And let me tell you, I understand that because the insurance isn't so bad for our house because it was built supposedly in 1830.
Wow.
So it's very, very old. Insurance isn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the taxes are insane here because we live in a good school district, and the repairs have been insane because it's a 190-year-old house.
Yeah.
So we've put in a lot of money, knowing that it was a fixer-upper, but just for things like replacing the furnace and replacing some plumbing, it's expensive. Between those two, we were well over $8,000.
Yeah. That article did a good job just stressing the emergency fund. Don't deplete that. Don't stretch your budget that you have to deplete that, or you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and especially don't deplete an emergency fund for something that's more discretionary.
Yeah. Like
don't go using it for a vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was an article I found that kind of talks about this overpaying or cash buying. kind of thing that's going on.
Mhm.
I saw it on TikTok, and I fact checked it. So
Nice.
maybe you saw it there too. But yeah, so it was a house that was listed for 1.2 million in South Pasadena. And the next slide goes on to talk about what actually happened in this selling process. But I think they ended up having 400 people look at it. You wanna see?
400.
Yeah, let's see here. Well, the next slide details what it is. So it's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, so nothing really great and spectacular. It was updated. I saw pictures. It was nice.
Right.
The realtor actually did. I didn't look at the pictures in detail enough, but I guess the kitchen was not updated.
Really?
Yes. So there was some critiques that it was underpriced.
Uh-huh.
But the realtor came back and said, no, I priced it at this because the kitchen was outdated and there were some other things that needed done.
And kitchens can be insanely expensive.
Yeah. So it sold in a week at double the asking price of 2.5.
That is mind blowing.
Yeah.
That someone's willing to pay $2.5 million.
Yes. So that next slide gets to 400 people dropped by to take a look. And 60 people made an offer, many of them all cash, no financing.
Golly.
Yeah, quite ridiculous. And then we talk about the payday. So the seller, who wants to remain anonymous, of course, asked that I not use his name, but bought the house in 1983 for $155,000.
Wow, I would love it if my house had that kind of appreciation.
Yeah. So he lived there, sent his kids to the schools there, and this is where I'm gonna question what happened here, because he stayed out of the way, blah blah blah, and used it as a rental property.
Huh. Okay.
So what's going through my mind there is, if it's a rental property, somebody had to pay capital gains, right? Because I think the rule is you have to live in the house for 2 of the last 5 years.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So if he didn't do that, that's a big payday right there for.
Yeah, because capital gains is, or at least long term. I guess that would probably go through as, oh gosh, I don't even remember. Regardless, that's a huge tax bill. Yeah.
I think I'd have moved in for 2 years and then sold it.
Yeah. Of course, at 80, he probably doesn't care anymore.
Might not. Although I think there is a way around it. If I'm not mistaken, if you make a sale on a property and reinvest it into real estate within a certain time frame, you aren't subject to capital gains.
Really? Okay.
That might be something to look up for next time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that might be the case.
Yeah. We might have to follow up.
He seems intelligent. He probably knows how to get around this.
Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately, we've been talking about a lot of real estate, which can be a bit demotivating sometimes. I know a lot of people who are looking for houses and have been discouraged by all that. And we always go back to the Fed raising rates because it just keeps happening. This year, it's already happened twice, and it's raised rates 0.75%, which is pretty massive. The largest raise in, I think, 30 years or so. But anyways, this article goes to talk about things that you can do before the Fed raises rates more to help protect yourself. So the number one thing is pay down debt, which is a very good thing to do, because the less debt that you have, especially consumer debt, the less you'll have to deal with the rates raising. So like credit cards, that's going to be, that can be 18 to 25%. And that's an insane interest rate to pay.
Yes.
So if you can pay all that down before the Fed continues to raise rates, that's going to help your finances tremendously and to stay out of debt. The next thing is preparing for the future. And in the article, basically, they're just outlining, hey, prepare for the future in that you need to be super intentional about your finances and thinking about what you're purchasing, because you can always minimize the number of discretionary purchases. Some people have more discretionary purchases than others. But if you can minimize that, then that's going to help you prepare, because you can either be paying down debt or you can be saving you know. And right now, savings accounts, even though they're not keeping up with inflation at all, are at least increasing their savings interest rate, which helps. And then the last one is Enlisting Help, and they just make a point that like, oh, if you know, to prepare yourself for the Fed raising rates, then just if you're not super financially savvy, then just go find someone to help, you know, and that'll help you just make the progress that you need to, especially if you don't know exactly what you're doing. And the last one is one of the only non-real estate ones. We threw it in here just to make it a little bit more interesting. And that is that summer travel is going to be more expensive. And here are some ways that you can navigate around it. So the first one is obviously when you travel is going to make a big difference. I'll tell a story. We were planning on going to Alaska this year for a trip. And we found out based on some education, like when a member of the family was going to be going back to school, we had to go at a certain time. And that time is like the peak for going to Alaska. It was just so expensive. We had everything planned out except for the rental car, and found out that the rental car was going to cost for 9 days between $300 and $3,500.
Yeah, you could have gone out there and bought a beater for that.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I couldn't believe that. So then, obviously, where you travel, Alaska's going to be an expensive one. So, but there are a lot of fun things that you can do in places that aren't even like destination vacations.
Yeah,
you know. So just go find something that's still going to be fun for you and your family. You can see some cool things and have a relaxing time. It doesn't have to be a destination. And then obviously when you book, we didn't book Alaska near enough in advance.
Yeah.
So the further out you can book, especially for airlines and that kind of thing, is going to make a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just have camping trips planned.
Yeah, I was going to say camping trips. That's
rather inexpensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Much cheaper.
Yeah.
So, all right. You got any more vacation tips?
Have a good time.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's pretty much the reason for it.
That's the goal.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let us know what you think about the articles and news stories in the comments down below, because we're genuinely interested in what you think. And we will see you in a couple weeks.